get fitter and stronger. That was one of the big things, and it really helped us. But we had a good solid team. I really liked our team in lots of ways. But anyway, morning, Wally. I was just gonna call you and see if you'd maybe started another call or something. I just chatting with Leo here. He's over in Stockholm. He knows Peter Elander.
All right.
Hey, Wally.
I know 3 words. Gott nytt år. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Wow, great accent. Almost better than mine.
Okay. But listen, guys, I spent time talking to Greg Reback of Hockey IQ, and I sort of asked him to be a guest today. And Greg gave me a list of things that he could possibly talk about. Now, he's babysitting, as you can see. So he may have to leave occasionally, off and on, but
it's full daddy time. There's no babysitting. I don't get to give this kid back at any time.
Greg, I'm thinking you just want something by osmosis to drift into your little one there as we're talking.
Would be nice. Would be nice. We'll take any life lessons we can give him.
Yeah.
Now listen, Greg, when you talked yesterday, I wrote down about 6 different topics, and the one I'm going to throw out at you right now is the one on the importance of feel in performance, and feel versus technical. If you can't feel it, you can't improve. Can you talk about that topic? I don't know if it's in the future you've got it planned for your site, but I'm sure curious about it because I'm sort of a proponent of that, and I might be guilty of overcoaching and directing as opposed to letting them figure it out and feel it. Go ahead.
Yeah, the whole thing on feel is athletic feel is eventually what everything turns into. So like all of our instruction, all of our cueing and coaching ends up needing to be a feel for the game or feel for space, feel for technique, whatever it is. So for me, I think one of the big things that I want to have more conversations around in our community is around cueing and where do we want to put players' focus. And then how does that affect developing feel? Like there's a great book that I absolutely love. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis, which I'm assuming a few of you may have read before. And it's fantastic. Like, best trash talk is just have someone, like you're playing tennis and you start telling them like about their elbow and, all these little technical stuff and they start getting in their own head and they self-destruct. Like that's really good because realistically, when we talk about cueing, we want to have cues that actually are leading to external. So like how far do we want, I was telling Wally about golf. I'm like, you don't really want to worry about keeping your right elbow tucked. Like that's great. Like usually it's going to help performance, but realistically you'd be rather wanting to cue a golfer to be like throwing a bucket of water out to a certain direction. Like that external cueing beyond themselves is actually going to lead better results rather than being like internally, like I got to put my foot here, I got to keep my elbow there, all of these little details that may go into the technique, but allowing it rather to come, like the technique to allow itself to develop on its own through athletic feel and that whole concept. So I'm curious if anyone else has dabbled with this or has some thoughts on
it. I've done a little bit of work in that area, but I experienced what you said. When I was coaching at the Oval, we went to a golf club as sort of a team building exercise with all the employees. And the golf pro did that. He gave us a 30-minute lesson that helped me hit that ball better than I'd ever hit it. And it was all based on feel. It was a whole methodology. I don't know that he used the bucket of water metaphor, but whatever he did, it was sort of like just processing and the feeling of doing the whole movement, and it worked quite effectively. The other thing I did, and it happened to be with Morris Lukovich golfing at a fundraiser for Hockey Canada. I wasn't golfing, just was riding karts and socializing with everybody, and I happened to join Morris, and everybody was off the course, and Morris was stewing about his stroke. And I did a little mental exercise with him that I've done with athletes where I just got him to think of his favorite coach. And of course, he picked Pat Quinn, and we talked about Pat. And I know Pat personally and just got some good vibes in the conversation about Pat, his personality, and that. And then I said, now just put that feeling of Pat in you, go up and hit the ball. And he did. Just felt good, felt easy, stroked the ball as well as he had all day, I guess. But those are my only two general examples. I haven't experienced it in coaching. I would sure like to get better at that because it is sort of it's a part of it that should be a major part. Tim, go ahead.
I've experienced it many times, and I'm sure everybody who's a golfer has. Go out to the driving range, first time in either a long time or first time during the year, and you don't know really where to focus your thoughts, so you just say, okay, just relax and swing. And inevitably, and this is truly my experience, it's like, wow, you're just hitting the ball extremely well. And the second you get inside your own head, like you hit a, maybe the next time you go to the range or you hit a bad one or two, now you're starting to think, oh, do I need to strengthen my grip, weaken my grip? Do I need to take it back lower or slower or wider? Or this, the second you start thinking about that, you lose the feel, and then it becomes, just totally random, it seems. So I definitely agree with Greg. It's a very real thing, and we all strive to. I hate it when players say I'm thinking too much, because you have to think when you're playing hockey, absolutely. But you want to make it sort of as automatic, read and react as you can. You don't want to overthink, but you definitely have to be thinking. And a lot of that read and react is feel for situations you've seen before or been in before, or something the coaches have directed you to do. But, I wrote down as Greg was talking, does feel equal IQ or hockey IQ? And I believe it does to a large extent. Go ahead, Leo.
Yes, here. No, great topic. Very, very interesting. On my side, I'm coaching now 3 years, and I really see and understand the value of wording, what you say, how you say it, and the questions you're asking. At the beginning, as a coach, I would not say too much by lack of confidence and by fear of saying the wrong things. And now I see more and more that what I can say to my players, the guidance I give them, can have a huge impact on their mental, not health, but just the way they feel on the ice. And the second thing that I see as well is the importance of the brain. Now it's becoming more mainstream, but I would say breath work, meditation, all this work can really help players to have a better feel. Last week I had a guy coming to me, a player saying like, I'm thinking too much, and he asks questions all the time. I see this as like on his side, he needs reinsurance. He needs me to guide him in one way, tell him what he should do. And sometimes this is, I think, our job as coaches to say the right thing, but not saying too much, and let part of the feeling. Let them think and feel, and then go back to their feelings. So I think it's tough. Not no one is doing this, but maybe writing down things after practices. How do they feel? Why they felt that way? And try to develop over practices. Greg, your turn.
All right. So Tim, you actually reminded me of the story that I wanted to tell, and I had taken notes on earlier, which was like going to the idea of like, where do we want to put their attention? What are they thinking about? Because like you obviously hit it right on the head. Like we do need to think to play hockey, but what are we thinking about? Are we thinking about solving pressure? Are we thinking about, oh, I need to put more downforce for a better shot? Like, where is that? And same thing with like development. So the story I want to share is around skating development. So I had some kids go through just like an agility course of sorts, like skating activity, just like see all the different areas, like how do they mohawk, how do they turn, all of this. And this wasn't AAA, it wasn't AA, it wasn't A. This was like B level hockey, so it was not great. Like you knew there was going to be some serious skill deficiencies. But rather than like lining up on the goal line, 4 lines, we're going to focus on stride length and all of this. I skipped that and went to the cueing of like, I just want you to feel that your upper body is always stacked on your lower body. Did the exact same thing again. And I had coaches coming over to me like, what just happened? Like it was a dramatic increase, palpable increase. Like you could tell right away. And the whole cueing process for the players was just make sure our upper body is properly stacked on our lower body. Like have that feel where you feel like your upper body is properly stacked on your foundation of your lower body. And that was the key component to make that breakthrough, rather than breaking down into bits and pieces. I got to teach stride length. Now I've got to teach balance. Now I got to teach outside edges. No, what is the area that we need to focus on? What's the cue and what's the feel?
And as you were chatting there, Greg, I'm just writing down. I just thinking, there's the technical area of the game, like physically shooting, passing, skating, and then there's the tactical area of the game. And for sure, technically, your feel for a skill needs to become as automatic and without thinking as possible, because you really, a player doesn't want to use up mental energy and focus on thinking about, oh, I got to get my hands here or there, or I got to do this or I got to do that, because that totally takes the focus off the tactical part, which does require reading, reacting, and thinking, and most importantly, and the Flames could learn from this, sort of an awareness of your responsibility within your team structure and system. And, the Flames are going down the same path they've been down for the last 2 years. They're getting leaky goaltending at the wrong time, but they're just leaky defensively. They just have way too much puck focus defensively. Puck goes up to the top. Everybody's focused on what that player is going to do, instead of, hey, my job down low is to maybe get good body position on a forward coming to the net. Maybe tie a stick up when the puck's coming through to the net. They have none of that awareness. So with respect to our conversation, yeah, like skill development, you need to develop a real automatic, non-thinking feel for the skills, so it doesn't interfere with your ability to take in what's going on tactically and execute your responsibility within your sort of team structure. You're muted, Wally.
Got it now. As Craig was speaking, I understand the principle of feel, because in coach education, we're taught biomechanics. And the first principle of biomechanics is stable balance. And that means the stacking idea, the upper body stacked over the lower body. Exactly that, Greg. And the example is trying to get up out of your chair without moving your shoulders or feet. And you can't until you get your weight over the center of gravity. So how you say it, the words you say, that little exercise I do at coaching clinics helps them appreciate the importance of biomechanics in that particular skill. Now, on the other side of what Tim said, how do teams get to think in unison and coordinating and intuitively react without hesitating in game situations? And Tom has experienced this. He's allowed me to do an autogenic relaxation visualization exercise with his teams over the years. And I picked it up my first year of sports psych at the University of Saskatchewan. And it was put together by Dr. Charles Vanek, who is the father of sports psychology from Prague. And that exercise, you tighten muscles, relax muscles, yoga breathe, and visualize and feel yourself performing well on the ice. That feeling state will often carry over to the next day, but I guarantee one thing, it'll give you a good sleep. So I think technically being able to develop the skill in a more efficient fashion by using feel, and then the best way to play well, make better decisions, is feel good. Leo, go ahead.
Talking about visualization, as you just mentioned here, when would be a good time to use it? I try to do it with my team just before games or the night before the game. I try to ask my players to lay down in the locker room for a couple of minutes, shut down the lights, play some native music. But I have the feeling that it's either too early or too late to do this. Would you guys have any tips on when to do that?
I think Tim is everything we do, coaches, teachers, leaders, is about the right stuff, the right amount, and the right time. I have no answer for that. I've only experimented with it upon a request, knowing that when teams are not succeeding, they're not feeling good, and they're not sleeping well, probably. So I really use it just the evening before, and I've never used it with a team in a concrete way, but I do send the video link out with my voice and that script, which we used the night before our gold medal final in the 2002 Olympics with the women's team. And I really believe that their performance state was ideal in that game. And I believe that exercise at least had them sleep well. And you're not hypnotized and you're not asleep. It's just finding that feeling state, just like in the heat of the moment of the sport. You can refocus, dial up, get back to what matters, and that's being your best. Craig, if you have anything to comment on, just feel free to chime in. Don't even bother putting your hand up because you've initiated the topic. So, Peter, we're talking with Greg Reback. Peter, are you driving or are you at home, Peter? Okay. Anyway, Tim, go ahead. We're talking about feel, the importance of feel versus technique in coaching.
Yeah, I was listening as you were talking there, Wally. Like I've used visualization, relaxation with teams, individually, and it can be really effective, especially if a player believes in it. And I've often had team sessions to introduce players to it. But really, to try to answer Leo's question, I've always felt like you give the players the tools and then you let them figure out, is it best for me to do this like an hour and a half before the game, right before I go for warm up, find a quiet spot, do it the night before, do it in the afternoon before a game. A lot of athletes, and it's really important to make the distinction between relaxation, which Wally was largely talking about in terms of, maybe helping the girls sleep the night before the game, and visualization, which really helps your mind prepare for the tasks that you're going to undertake during the game. And they're, of course, linked, and you use them together, but they can be used separately as well. You need to relax in order to visualize, but you could do purely relaxation exercises as well, as we all know. But I think it can be a really, really effective tool. And like I said, I have walked some teams through it, like as a pregame meeting, for instance, an hour and a half before the game. I've had some teams, we shut the lights off, we do some deep breathing to relax a bit, and then walk them through some scenarios in their mind, like a net front battle where you tie up a stick and deny a rebound, a race for a puck, a back check where you lift a stick and steal a puck. You walk them through actual physical situations that they're going to be encountering in the game, and you prepare the mind for those situations. And it can be a tremendously effective tool, like I say, especially if players believe in it, and not all players will. I think it's some hooey, but they would be wrong.
Yeah, in the Vanek script, part of the visualization is seeing yourself doing the things you do well to feel good.
That's critically important, I think.
Critically. Now, the idea of coaching the things that they need to do better is really good, but my question is it reminding them of what they do well? Does it make them feel better? And that's the art of should I, shouldn't I? So I like your idea, Tim. In the end, when I've used this, I've just sent the link out. Players might use it, players might not use it. A few of Tom's players have told me they use it to go to sleep. I don't know. I just say it's there, make use of it, see how they find out about it. Ask them, I think, Leo, is probably the best thing. What works for them, and some things work for you that don't work for me, and it's an experiment, and that's what coaching is. It's you just change the way you do things and see what happens and go from there. Greg, do you have any comments on what we've been going on about here?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about visualization, it's really about like where are you putting your head, where are you putting your focus, and where are you seeking information in the environment. Like, I think that for me is the most important part if we're talking about visualization. It's like just, okay, I'm going to be in the situation. Where am I looking for information? Where do I see pressure coming from? Like, that's the important part. For me, when I started this conversation, it's really about like, how do we cue? How do we practice? How do we get players to improve their skills and their tactics through athletic feel, more so than like, I'm feeling good today type stuff. Like, how do you feel through an athletic environment? Or how do you feel through a technical improvement? I think that's the key for me, is just like, how do you do that? And how do we cue? And there's a great guy, I forget the book that he wrote. The name is Nick Winkelman. He currently is with Rugby Ireland. And he's got a great presentation. I'll have to find the link and put it in the chat here for everyone, around just like, how do you cue an athlete for improvement within the athletic space itself. He's more of a strength and conditioning type coach, that kind of stuff. So how does he go about in the gym cueing his players to do better, improve, whether it be maybe some sprinting, whether it be a squat, whatever it may be. So he's got a really cool book. Again, Nick Winkelman's the name. So I'll put the link in here, and it's really good. And I'll have to find the exact photo I'm thinking of like how you're cueing directs focus from internal to external, and like each step that he takes, and like what an example of that is. So I think that would be a really cool thing for us to riff on.
Peter Whitney.
Good morning, gentlemen. Morning, gentlemen.
So, good morning.
Like, I really enjoy what you were saying, and I really think what it kind of gets down to is it's so important to actually know your players, because there will be some, like you said, Tim, that react to it, some that don't react to it. But I mean, really get to know your kids. Like, I had one boy on my team who, he was going to be an uncle, right? He's 23 years old. He's going to be an uncle for the first time. So excited about it. We talked about it. He knew that I cared about more than, hey, you know what? Are you going to back check tonight? Are you not going to turn the puck over? he knew that I actually cared about him. And while it's a lot of work, and I get it, I mean, at the collegiate level, at the pro level, probably don't have as much time at the pro level, I'm guessing, but at the collegiate level, you do have more time to establish those kinds of relationships. And if you don't do that as a coach, you're missing out on something, because if they know you care about them as individuals and not just, all right, you're a tool to win games for me so I can move on in my career, better contract, whatever it may be, you're going to get more out of them, but you're also going to find out who will buy into what you're saying. And those are the guys I think you focus on initially. And if you have good team chemistry and atmosphere, they can at least bring some of those other guys or girls on board with what you're trying to get across to them.
Tim, before I get you to speak, well, I'm going to go and talk a bit about Morris Lukovich's languaging, because what you said relative to the players, and you used the word don't and something about back check things that maybe they had to do better. I'll get into that later, but Tim, go ahead with your train of thought.
No, it wasn't Wally. It wasn't coaching. It wasn't about being better. It was about literally seeing yourself in positive situations. On a back check where you stick lift and strip the puck, in a battle where you out battle somebody. It wasn't about don't. It was about encouraging them to see themselves winning a puck race or winning a battle.
I wasn't referring to you. I'm just referring to coaches in general that say don't do, don't do this, don't do that, and it affects how they feel. They have a negative focus and mindset to go out and have to perform because they're thinking about what not to do, and in the end they'll do it.
Yeah, and that's
a fundamental point I wanted to get across about feeling. I'm not debating that I'm misusing the word about don't. I know the purposeful use of it to do well, and those that do well that aren't feeling good, aren't sleeping well like the Flames, had better think about what they've done best to get feeling better. But if you harp on what they're not doing well, it ain't going to turn the corner, in my opinion, and I'm not coaching at that level at all. I'm just throwing out the idea of the importance of maintaining a focus, and feelings will control performance in the end.
Yeah,
excitement from feeling good.
And the languaging piece is, of course, very important, but a separate topic or a different topic. They're all linked together. The other thing I was, in thinking about is, as Greg was talking, for me, and we all know a lot of athletes are very superstitious, and that springs from a lack of control over the situation. They don't, you get nervous because you're not sure how things are going to go. And for me, I really found the relaxation and visualization in the afternoon of a game afforded me the luxury of like having a freer mind, like less nervous because I felt more prepared, because I walked through for 15, 20 minutes situations I was going to get in and executed properly in those situations. And it relieves some of the nervousness and moves you closer to an ideal performance state. And really importantly, I think it removes the dependence on superstitions to sort of prepare yourself for a game. Because superstitions can really backfire. If you like to tie your skates a certain way, or you like to do this or do that before the game, if something goes awry that you don't control, now the superstition backfires and makes you more nervous. It's like, oh geez, if I want to play well, I need this to happen, and this didn't happen today. So now you're more nervous instead of more prepared for the game. And so I think the relaxation and visualization can afford you a better sense of that you're in control and you're prepared, and relieve a dependence on superstition in the lead up to a game, because they're really critically important, I think.
Tim, I agree with what you said. And Leo, I think the key thing here for me is knowing the player, because whether or not I do it this way or that way, I'm going to do it the best way I know how. But if I know my players, I'll do it differently for some and let them figure out. You have to figure out what works for them. And it's not our way necessarily always working. If the art is just getting them to figure it out. Now, Greg, if you have anything else to add, I've got a couple things I could divert into, because I'm sure we could go the entire session on this topic, but I think we've got, we've managed to get out of our minds all the things I have anyway. But
yeah, I think we can keep it going. We have quite a bit to hit today, so I don't want to.
And I would
belabor something too
clarify
much.
that it's not for Leo to figure out what's best for the players. It's for the players to figure out what's best for each of them individually, because it'll be different.